Ozzy Media has announced they would be shutting down on Friday. So we thought today we'd talk about that shutdown, but this morning their CEO had a change of heart on NBC's Today Show, which put him on air in what is one of the more deranged, narcissistic interviews I've ever seen. I mean, this would be like, in my mind, like Elizabeth Holmes and Bernie Madoff doing an interview like the week after they did their perp walk. It's bonkers. So just to give you a brief recap, the New York Times' Ben Smith, who is a media reporter who came from BuzzFeed, who was involved in a lot of deals, and now he's kind of like a columnist, having formerly been a senior executive. So his position is really murky. Like the fact that they allow him to use all this previous information he had from his previous life, and it would be like some venture capitalist or president of a company that decided to be a columnist and used all the inside information they had to write columns. It's pretty entertaining. Ben Smith is a good read. And so much so, Ben Smith is so conflicted that many times when he publishes a piece, he has to put like a disclaimer paragraph that like, yeah, I was involved in this company. I negotiated with this company. I have a deal with that company. I still own shares in BuzzFeed. I'm trying to clear them. He is conflicted all over the place, which makes it even more entertaining. As we say in the industry, no conflict, no interest. And man, Ben Smith is so conflicted. It's super interesting. The quote from the article about his conflict, which, listen, he's upfront about it. So I think pretty easy to say that he's covered his bases in that regard. Quote, I was an editor-in-chief of BuzzFeed News at the time of the article. Later, I met Mr. Watson when I was peripherally involved in acquisition talks between the companies. In other words, Ben Smith is writing about this company that he was involved in, merging with, I guess, or buying. Mr. Watson told the Times he believed that it was unethical for me to write this column under New York Times policy. I can't write about BuzzFeed extensively until I divest stock options in the company, which I left last year. So I guess extensively is the key word in there. But the New York Times, I think their ethics policies are pretty strong about this kind of stuff. But I think they're also becoming a little loosey-goosey as they've picked their side, right? They've just gone full woke, full, I would say socialist left, social democratic, as opposed to really trying to be unbiased in their approach, right? They literally are hiring journalists to hold tech accountable, and they're doing press releases saying, hey, we're going to hold tech accountable. So pretty interesting approach by the New York Times, and it's obviously working to get them more subscribers. So I don't have a problem with it as long as they're upfront about it. So last week, there were allegations that Ozzy was inflating their metrics, through pop unders and other gray hat or black hat tricks. And then they would use those puffed up numbers to raise money. And then, of course, that there was an FBI, or there apparently is an FBI investigation into them impersonating a YouTube executive on a call with Goldman to raise $40 million. After the article came out, there was a board investigation that was announced. And Ozzy's most popular, recently hired broadcaster, Katie Kay, resigned. It's been like this whole every day, a couple of shoes drop. And we've just got a pile of shoes right now. In the Friday news dump, right? Always drop your news on Friday. Ozzy announced they were going to wind down operations and shut down. So this is what I said last week. The company's obviously going to go to zero. It's going to shut down. It's always obvious to me because I've seen this movie before. No investors want to touch a company like this. No investors are going to make money. If they could make money, they would, right? There's just no money to be made when a company is under investigation or by the FBI or Goldman Sachs was defrauded, during a call. Like it's just, these are insurmountable odds. So fast forward to today, Monday, Friday, they're shutting down. Carlos Watson went on the Today Show and announced that Ozzy would be staying open, called it a Lazarus moment. So I guess he's kind of saying Jesus is going to resuscitate him and bring him back to life. This is pretty crazy. And these videos to me, and I hate to play amateur psychologist here, but this is the craziest narcissistic performance I've seen since Elizabeth Holmes. I'll see you on the other side of this 40-second train wreck.
Let's start with the status of Ozzy as we sit right now. Reports that the company shut down on Friday. Is that true? Is the company shut down, or are you still open for business?
We're going to open for business. So we're making news today. This is our Lazarus moment, if you will. This is our Tylenol moment. Last week was traumatic. It was difficult. heartbreaking in many ways. And at the end of the week, we did suspend operations with a plan to wind down. But as we spent time over the weekend, we talked to advertising partners, we talked to some of our readers, some of our viewers, our listeners, our investors. I think Ozzy is part of this moment, and it's not going to be easy. But I think what we do with newsletters, what we do with TV shows, original TV shows, podcasts, and more, I think has a place.
This is crazy behavior because he literally is making himself into a victim here that nobody asked you if last week was hard. You guys are involved in clearly criminal behavior of securities fraud. This is deranged behavior. And you're talking about how hard last week was. I mean, nobody has any sympathy for you. And then this level of grandiosity of this is important for him to, be out there and defending himself. It really is crazy. This is an absolutely crazy narcissistic person from my professional opinion of dealing with founders. That's just my professional assessment. I have seen founders who have delusions of grandeur. I have seen people who cannot acknowledge when they're wrong. And then there's another level. So you can be delusional. I'm the greatest angel investor of all time. I want to be the greatest angel investor in the history of Silicon Valley. These are grandiose things I've said that I set as a goal for myself. But I also acknowledge that there's 5 angel investors that we all know who have done massively better than me. And I always say they're kind of retired. So maybe I have a shot at being number one. Maybe I'll be Mount Rushmore. And then there are people who want to get to Mars, or there are people who, want to index the world's data like Google. People set stretch goals. And then there's this deranged sense of self-importance. Do you get that self-importance? Nobody cares about Ozzy Media. Nobody cares if Ozzy exists. The right thing to do here when all this behavior has happened, much of which seems criminal and seems like it would be securities fraud, is to shut the thing down and say, we made mistakes. We're going to put this thing to bed, and hopefully I'll earn people's trust back. But this is nuts. All right, it's time for another R Crowd deal of the week. Right now, you can join R Crowd's investment in consumer physics. According to the deal memo, consumer physics has developed the first portable lab-grade device that can analyze material at a molecular level. This helps farmers boost production, improve efficiency, and minimize waste. Consumer physics has grown revenue 100% year over year and is used by over 50 global enterprise customers, according to their deal memo. So, speaking of growth, do you wish you were in early on some of the best performing IPOs of 2019 and 2020? Well, R Crowd investors were, and now you can join them. With R Crowd, accredited investors can invest directly, easily, and most importantly, early. Yes, R Crowd investors have already benefited from companies IPOing like Beyond Meat, or being bought by companies like Intel, Nike, Microsoft, Oracle, and Uber. Da-da-da-da-da. My favorite, of course. R Crowd's accredited investors have already invested over $1 billion in growing tech companies. If you are an accredited investor, you can join R Crowd for free at OurCrowd.com/twist. And then you get to review all those current deal memos. And that's a free education right there. Deal memos are a great way to get really smart really fast. There's no payment involved until you decide to invest. That's OurCrowd.com/twist. Just sign up for free.